Hello, everyone, and welcome back to D1 Coaches Pod. Super excited to be back. A lot going on. David's back full in season, so that's very exciting. They're going to the indoor nationals soon. And then I'm with the Growth Performance, just launched a college prep program, so we have a lot going on. But the most important thing today is our two guests that we have here. They have been playing really hard to get for a year already, but it's okay. We love them. They're about to start their season too, so that's exciting for them. And another thing is that sometimes I'm kind of jealous of them because they take David away from me to play golf. The deal has to be either, he has to get better at it, or you guys have to let him win a little bit more so he can be happy when he.
Hey, we could make the whole podcast about golf and fake handicaps and indexes.
We just need to get you healthy. We'll worry about it later.
It is a lot of fun. We've had some unbelievable moments there. It kind of, mental health and performance in the clutch. We can definitely use that as an example.
I've heard some stories.
You want to introduce our guests? You want me to do it?
You go for it. They're your friends.
Very excited to have them. They have been playing hard. They're busy men. All-star here with the head coach at TCU, current head coach at TCU, a dad, a husband, 7 years in the major leagues as a pitcher. That's pretty cool. And has been at TCU since 2012. You were the pitching coach, recruiting coordinator for a long time, many trips to the World Series, and now you're on your 5th season at TCU. Kirk.
Yeah, he said it right.
It's
a great story on David and my name.
Oh, man, I've butchered his name. I'm not good with names, and I've called him Kurt many times.
And called me Craig, which is my middle name.
Oh, okay.
See?
So, I don't even know where you got that from, but it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
But,
I went out of my way to fix the Craig by calling him Kurt all night, and then realized that was wrong. So, I'll keep it official.
That's one of my favorite things to do too. Is when you get someone's name wrong, you then have to go overboard in any conversations trying to say their name correctly.
Correct.
So that to erase what you had said before. But you just doubled down. You went to Kurt, which I'm used to because Kirk and Kurt, you get a lot of the same.
Yeah.
But I actually probably didn't notice it. And then you come back 5 years later and tell me the story, and I
felt like the biggest idiot.
Yeah, so now I just call Dave. I just call him Daniel now. So we have our own little.
I like Daniel. And JD, Coach DiLaura, John DiLaura, better known as Schoolboy for some of you out there that don't know this. Look at him. He just looks like a schoolboy right there, perfectly dressed all the time. Good boy. John played at Michigan, catcher, infielder at Michigan. And then bounced around some colleges, won the junior college championships.
We did, yes, at Chipola in 2017.
That's awesome. Carry the trophy. And now you have been at TCU for?
Be going into my 8th season.
Wow, that's
amazing.
Kirk
and I, when I got here, Kirk was still in his assistant role. So I think we did that for 3 years, and now 5 with him as the head coach. So I was lucky he kept me on.
And you're the recruiting coordinator.
Now I am, yes, sir, yeah.
Yes, we're going to... God, you never call me sir.
We're in a professional setting.
Don't worry about getting it.
And then John and I, we came the same 2018?
Fall of 18 was when I got here.
Same. But
yeah, so we've all been together for a while, which is cool.
Awesome. It is great having you. We can go in so many directions. Obviously, we will talk about the recruiting world. It's a crazy world. Baseball recruiting, in my mind, has always been so difficult and crazy because of the draft. So now you have things like NIL. You see, in tennis, we've always dealt with ex-professionals coming back on, to play college sports. Now you see it in basketball.
Right.
I don't know if that's happening in baseball or not. But let's talk about recruiting.
Yeah.
Just open question. And you both do it. You did it. You both do it. I know you're both involved. Where do you start? Here we have parents listening, kids out there in high school, middle school. Tell us a little bit about the crazy world of recruiting.
I'll let the recruiting coordinator. So I was a recruiting coordinator before John was. So back when I first started, you were recruiting 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders. And now the rules changed for baseball where you can only talk to and receive calls from juniors and seniors. So it's changed a little bit in terms of the timeline, which makes it easier yet harder if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because easier where you're not having to deal with 5 classes, but harder because now everybody, where you could probably outwork somebody and get a kid because you've seen him and started a relationship with him in the 8th, 9th grade, and you can get him committed to you. Well, now he waits all the way until his junior year, and now everybody knows about him, right? So it's easier yet harder, if that makes any sense.
Yes,
but
yes.
he's in it every single day. I'm going to let the recruiting coordinator kind of talk to that, and then I'll just kind of fill in it after.
Yeah, it's been, since I've been here, interesting to see kind of how it's evolved.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, like he said, you were just trying to outwork people and develop relationships. And we're still trying to do the outworking part, but that's different now. It's like getting them to camp. That's the only way you can communicate with them. Since he's become head coach, the transfer portal's been more of a thing, so he's kind of handled that. We'll do everything together as a staff and just communicate, as effective as possible, but it has changed a lot. Money's more, involved, I would say now. It's a little bit more transactional than the relationship building piece, which for us, I'm not going to speak, on behalf of the program, Kirk can, but for us, it's about the relationships and, the character of the kids and families we're bringing in. It always has been, and now we're trying to, keep that relevant still in a world where it feels like people, recruits, athletes, they're about as least interested in that as possible now. It's more about like, what can you, do for me? What can this program do for me? Where, he'll turn it around, on the guys. Like we have core values in our program, selfless, excellence, and energy. So trying to get the kids to believe and buy into that still is huge. It's just in the world we're living in now, it's a little bit more difficult. So, but it's fun to navigate, since we're in this transitional period, with all of the finance, pieces. So just trying to figure it out and keep your head above water. And luckily for us, we've, done that the last few years. Knock on wood, season starting. But, want to keep it obviously rolling, for the future. So.
Yeah. So you're talking about character, right, and your values. So if you could speak of your perfect recruit, what traits does that kid have?
I think the core values of our program of selfless, excellence, and energy. And if you could pick one, I probably would pick selfless, because I think everything else will fall in line after that. But everybody comes from different backgrounds, and you guys know this with recruiting in your sports. But this place has a niche, TCU does, and each sport has their own niche as well. So you're usually if you're having success in some of the areas, like for us, Southern California and Texas, obviously, then you're going to keep going back there because those areas, have done a good job, producing well-rounded kids, athletes, individuals, come from good families, good parents. So, you kind of just want to keep that moving. Now, it's funny, we have kids that we suspend every year and then they become captains, 2-3 years down the road.
We've had that too.
So
at your program,
they all don't come in as a finished product. Some have a better foundation than others, which that's life. We're all evolving, even us as adults. So, but yeah, there's freshmen every single year where, they're struggling to, find their classroom and show up, on time to weights. And it's like, all right, we're going to take baseball away for a couple weeks. And
it's amazing how quickly that gets their attention. Because a lot of times it's the kid that maybe hasn't been held accountable a ton. Maybe not by their parents per se, but in terms of the school and being accountable and showing up to things on time. And our rules for class are pretty simple, but they're pretty strict. I mean, you show up 5 minutes early. You have to sit in the first 3 rows of class. You have to go meet your professor the first day, introduce yourself, participate in class, and never miss class. I mean, it's pretty straightforward and simple, but I think that accountability piece usually is the one that is a little bit tougher for that freshman, that all of a sudden it's like, because it's a little bit different where in high school you just show up at 8 o'clock and you're there the whole day. Where with baseball, your weight's at 6. So usually what happens is that kid goes back and, man, I'm tired. I have a 9 o'clock class. Let me get a quick little nap in. Next thing you know, they oversleep, right? And so
we've seen it. We've seen
yeah.
it.
So a lot of times it's like the kid that we suspend. Next thing you know, by the time the season rolls around, that kid has kind of learned his lesson, and I mean, he's amazing. And then the next year, he kind of talks to the kid that was him, right? The next guy gets suspended, and the guy that was suspended the year before goes, "Hey, I've been there, I've done that.
Yeah.
Let me give you my 2 cents." And like, you know, I'll say it. Cademan wouldn't be embarrassed about it, but Cademan Parker was a guy who just got drafted by, I think he's with the White Sox now. Man, his first couple years, you know, he was in my office all the time, and you know, his freshman year, he should have been a high school senior. I think he was young for his grade. And, you know, we had a lot of conversations about just accountability. And by the time he left, he could have left after his 3rd year, but he felt like he hadn't given back to the program what he wanted to yet. So he turned down some substantial money to come back because he felt like he hadn't left his mark yet.
That's awesome.
And he hadn't been able to maybe, you know, leave something better than he found it. And so he came back for his senior year, and he went from a guy that was in my office all the time to, no doubt about it, our captain of our whole baseball team. You know, and that's the part where it's super cool, where you see that. You don't get to see it as much anymore because of the portal and all this stuff, because a lot of times you hold these kids accountable sometimes, and see it, coach, I'm out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else where I can just worry about playing baseball.
Yeah.
And you know, with Cademan, it was something where it's like, that's why we get into it. That's why you got into it, and you got into it, because you can affect and change kids' lives, you feel like.
Yeah.
Not that we changed Cademan's life, but I think that's the part of coaching where I think you can have a bigger influence than just helping a guy throw a curveball or hit one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you go from the transactional piece where you're talking about scholarship and NIL to the transformational part, which is what you want. You want to be a transformational. It's just sometimes you don't get to it because they don't really care to hear it that much in the recruiting process. And then once they arrive, then you can put the money aside. All right, we got that. Now let's help you.
Yeah,
let's get you to the next level.
And getting our guys in for summer school has been really big. You know, our freshmen that come in, because it gives them about, you know, a month worth of time in July until, you know, August, where they can kind of have an understanding of what they're not getting into, but what we're required of them.
Yeah.
You know, and do it in a low stress time where they only have, you know, one class and they have weights and not a lot else going on. And then you also bring the transfer portal guys in that summertime too. And then by the time the fall rolls around, everybody's kind of on the same page, and we can kind of get going, you know, in a hurry, as opposed to kind of getting all that stuff out of the way in the early part of fall. We can do it in the summer.
That's great.
So if you're, for those parents listening right now and those student athletes that are in high school, maybe in the transfer portal, what are some things that you would tell them right now? Work on this, because this is gonna be required of you in college. What are some, whether skill sets, mindsets, that you would tell a 16-year-old? I know you have one, Brady.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's 18.
He's 18.
He's going to be a freshman at TCU next year.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And Emory?
I know. Emery's 16 and Lane's 12. Yeah, when we first came here, Brady was 4, so
Oh, wow.
that's, I mean, I look in the mirror, I'm reminded all the time with the gray hair and everything how long I've been here, but like now it's like, wow, that Brady's 4 and now he's going to be a freshman at TCU next year. But to get to your question, I think be able to handle both adversity and success. You know, I think it's super easy to handle success, but do it in the right way. But handle adversity, because usually what we tell players all the time is the biggest jump in your professional or your career is not going to be when you leave TCU to go play professional baseball. It's going to be from when you leave high school to come to college.
100%.
Because you're so used to hitting in the 3-hole or being the best pitcher and having success pretty much every time because you're the best player on the field. Well, now you're joining everybody else that was just like you, and so now you have all the best players either on one team or you're playing against them, so you're going to have a lot of failure. And baseball, probably more than any sport, you learn real fast what you're about. It reveals your character. You know, and I think for us, it's like having them have an understanding that you're going to fail, and that's fine. It's actually a good thing. Like, that's when you learn and grow the most, is through your failures. But it's hard, right? It's really hard to be able to understand that and get through that and understand that this is part of playing baseball at the collegiate level. And so I think that's the big thing, is being able to work on the mental game. You know, I know you're into that, and we spend a lot of time with our mental performance coach. You know, we bring him in 3 or 4 times a year for 3 days at a time. Our guys, you know, Zoom with him, have his phone number, talk to him all the time, because especially with social media, that's the biggest thing I've noticed, is that the comparison.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're always comparing yourself to someone, because you see Instagram or you see Twitter, and you're always comparing yourself. And that's the biggest way to steal joy from your life, is to compare yourself to others, as opposed to just focusing on how can I get myself better, right? And not say I'm comparing myself to John, and then next thing you know, you don't know how to deal with basically, you know, expectations and those type of things. So I think it's super tough for an athlete nowadays, just because of social media, and everything's out there. When I played, it was like there was still dial-up internet on AOL, right? And you didn't really know what was going on around the country. You just knew it by Baseball America would come out with a magazine once a month, and you kind of thumb through it and you look through, oh, that's what's going on around the country. Yeah. Well, now everything's at your fingertips all the time.
Yeah, and nobody's posting their failures either.
Correct.
You're seeing everybody's best.
That's right. Yeah. It's all polished up, and it's
and
the
now
best.
It's really polished up. AI.
Yeah.
You know, I can probably look like you on social media.
Yeah.
Just a better looking, taller
version,
wealthier version of myself.
No, but I love what you're saying, you know, and it reflects, just for you guys to know, in the culture of your team. Mm-hmm. Like whenever, like for example, like we had when I was at with the beach volleyball team, it's like which team do you guys want to look like too? And one of the teams was baseball. Mm-hmm. You know, you guys like showed up. You guys look disciplined. Every time you run into the guys wherever, you know, the pad or wherever, super respectful. Good morning, all this. So you could tell that you guys really hold your standards high, and it's something very important and that's things that, you know, young kids need to focus on, right? Like they're trying to focus on getting their skills, which is really important, don't get me wrong, mm-hmm. right? But at the same time, sometimes they bounce around from coach to coach and this and that, and they're not able to be consistent, or, you know, accountability is not there yet, mm-hmm. and then they hit the wall when they get to college,
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, I think John does a really good job. Like, you can go and watch games all the time and see, you know, athletic ability. Mm-hmm. But John spends a lot of time when he's out recruiting the high school stuff in the summer and in the spring of that other X factor piece. Mm-hmm. You know, like trying to, you know, talking to coaches, talking to scouts, talking to a lot of people that have been around this kid, and understanding what's that extra piece of, like, what's this kid like off the field? You know, how does he handle adversity? You know, and just that kind of 5th or 6th tool, you know, because ultimately that's what it's going to come down to. You can have the most talented team, but if you can't handle, you know, a poor game or a poor stretch, or how are you going to handle that? You know, I don't think your talent's not going to show up as much. And I think he does a really good job at identifying kids that have that kind of grit and that factor to them. But I'll kind of turn it over to you in terms of what you feel like kids need to work on, 16, 17-year-old kids, in terms of what you see on a daily basis in the summer.
Yeah, your answer was spot on. I was going to mention the social media piece, but I'll just, I guess, look at the rules component of it. Like before, kids were wanting to get phone calls as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. Okay, now it's literally August 1st, and everybody's going to get called on the same day. So we're trying to educate now in this new world we're living in to, like, go to a camp. Like, you can't on August 1st field 50 phone calls and, like, try to wrap your mind around, okay, where do I want to visit? Mm-hmm. Some of the kids will have an idea. Especially, let's just say a state of mm-hmm. Texas kid, they're like, all right, I'm going to visit, you know, the 3 schools in the state, and then, you know, go to one out-of-state school. But I would try to, for the kids that may or may not be interested in a place, like, they need to go to a camp. They need to be around the coaches. They need to, you know, walk campus, like, kind of get a feel and a vibe for, you know, where they possibly could be. Because between August 1st and September 1st, we're trying to, you know, line up a visit, and get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And it's just such a short period of time to make such a big decision. Like we tell kids and families all the time, where you decide to go to school is probably the second biggest decision of your life outside of who you're going to marry. Like it's going to impact you for the next 40 years of your life, not just the next 4 or 3 if you're going to get drafted and leave early. So, you know, it's a huge decision. So to be as educated as possible going into it, I think is big. Do research, go online. You know, we're working on developing more content for the younger players since we can't communicate.
Yeah.
What do they go to? He talked about social media.
Yes.
Right? Like putting stuff out there to where it could just be a little bio about him and his background and where he came from, so people have some sort of a general understanding of, oh, that's the head coach. He's from Southern California. There's maybe a little bit of a connection before, you know, that phone call. So in the world we're living in now, everything he said spot on, but I would just, you know, have these kids try to just educate themselves as much as possible on schools they're interested in and keep working. That's always at every level. I mean, we told Stroh-Snyder that last year, like, you have to get better. He was National Player of the Year. Like, that's just normal coach talk.
Yeah.
Get better. Get better. Stay healthy.
It doesn't matter how
it doesn't matter
or how bad you are.
But everyone's
You gotta
process
keep
is
getting
different,
better.
and the timelines are different, and, you know, some kids panic when, you know, they don't land on their feet after, you know, a month of phone calls and they didn't get any, and they're like, all my friends are getting calls, and
that's
it's like, it's okay.
That's where social media just messes everything up, right? And then they feel they're behind,
Correct.
and then they feel they need to make a decision
Panic.
soon, or like, oh my God, like that school is where I want to go. But yeah, camps, it's like huge, right? Visit campus. Understand also, with some of the kids I work with, is like, what are your, you know, like your target schools, your reach schools, and your safety schools, right? And try to like understand where, you know, each one of them plays a role and how do they align to their values, to their goals, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I think social media is doing a great job somehow, and hopefully with this, we can help you guys to get you guys out there so more kids and families get to know you. That's was one of our goals from the beginning, right? To get a lot of the TCU coaches out here so they could, you know, we could interview them in the different ways so recruits can see them and understand a little bit more about their programs.
Yeah, you get to see the personality. There's also different avenues to get to a TCU. It's not high school to TCU. I know you've had success. You won the national championship in the junior college. You've had, from what I've noticed, you've had players that came from a junior college that were impactful and they were ready. They matured, different timeline. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, when we went to the World Series from, I think we went with 14, 15, 16, 17, that 4-year stretch, we built our team from the junior college rank because, you know, TCU is expensive. It's expensive to go to TCU.
Yes, it is.
But they do a really good job of helping transfer students in terms of academic scholarships. And so when we were putting those teams together in that 4-year stretch, you know, we had 11.7 scholarships, and at that time it was 35 people on the roster. So you're left with 24. We don't give out full rides for the most part. Like back in that day, it was like a full ride was unheard of.
Yeah.
You know, we had Luke and Baker, who was the Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of Texas, who was on a full ride because he had 75% baseball and 25% academic. And I think that might have been like the only guy in my time as a recruiting coordinator that was on a full. So what we had to do was how are we going to stretch that 11.7? And for us at that time, it was like, let's go, because there's a ton of great junior college baseball all over the country, but especially in Texas. And so what we did was we went to the junior college ranks to go. It was mostly position players. I would say we probably had 3 or 4 position players on each one of those Omaha teams from junior college, just because we could give them a 25% scholarship. They'd get a 25% academic, and next thing you know, they're only on the hook for 50 as opposed. So that made our dollars and cents stretch a lot further. Now with the transfer portal, that's kind of, I wouldn't say it's taken over for the junior college player, but it's made it a lot tougher for them just because we're really high school heavy. We feel like that's the way to put a roster together, to have continuity, to be able to build something, to have guys for 2-3 years. And now you can go to the transfer portal, which is kind of like junior college almost, But at the same time, we feel like we're trying to still get that really good junior college player because there's a lot of guys that maybe they weren't quite ready coming out of high school.
Correct.
And now with all these schools really hammering the transfer portal, the high school kid kind of gets left out.
Yes.
Correct.
Because they get squeezed out because now, because now, you look at it and you're like, would I rather have a guy that's 21 that has already played college baseball as opposed to the high school player? We still feel like the high school player brings great value.
So you're building your program. The core is still the high school.
And then we supplement it with the portal.
Depending on how your recruiting class
Correct.
went or where the holes you might have.
The scary thing, though, is we have our draft. So the portal opens July 1st or June 1st. It runs to July 1st. Our draft is July 10th.
So after the portal.
So all of a sudden, we had six. We only had 6 guys in our high school class this year because we had a really big high school class last year. We had 6 guys, and probably 3 of those guys very easily could have signed. Mm-hmm. So now you're sitting there. We don't go because we're not expecting, but we've had conversations with them throughout the whole spring about the draft, the pros and cons of college versus professional baseball, and we're not trying to tell them one way or the other. We're just trying to educate him.
I'm trying to
He's telling him,
come to school.
Yeah.
And Lane's telling him too. Come to school.
But we're just trying to educate him on, okay, if you go this route, this is what it looks like. Can't guarantee anything, but we feel like this is the best avenue for you. In a couple years, you'll be even more ready for professional baseball. Well, they had a decision to make, and all of a sudden, if 3 of those guys said, hey, we're going to take the money and go sign, we're left with
holding the bag.
Pretty big hole. Yeah. And at that point, the portal's closed. Most of those guys have been picked over. Now you're really in a bind. So over the last 2 years, we've probably had 6 or 7, maybe 8 guys that have the opportunity to sign for pretty good money that decided to come to school. And if that didn't happen, all of a sudden you're in trouble. So I'd love for the draft to go back to early June. It used to be early June before the portal started.
So then you know what.
So we know what our roster is.
Yeah.
Because right now,
that's stressful.
What we don't want
to
do,
have it where all high school kids had to go to college for at least a year.
Because the worst thing you can do now is, I feel like, is if you have those high school players, we're planning on them playing. But then if you try to go into the portal and make sure that you cover your rear end if they do sign, now it's that deal where if the high school kid's playing and the portal guy's not, I mean, that's a tough deal because the portal guy came for one reason, to play.
Yeah.
So that's the dynamic of like trying to hit on this thing and making sure that we're all on the same page. And we spend a ton of time with families, agents, going over all these things to make sure that our roster is the one that we want.
And it goes back to that character piece in the recruiting process. That was there a pattern? Is there a pattern of this recruit jumping from team to team, from coach to coach?
Yeah.
And you see a pattern, you're like, okay, that's probably going to happen to us. This prospect has shown that loyalty is not.
Yeah.
And they're looking at it from, like, the perspective of what has TCU done to, like, what have the high school kids done there? Because we're telling them to show up, right? Because they're going to have the opportunity to play. But if no freshmen ever play or do well or have success based on this path we're kind of guiding them on, then they're going to, just like we're examining them, they're examining us and our track record.
Yeah.
So, like, these 3 kids from this past, the 25 class, looked at the 24 class. Well, we had 4 freshmen All-Americans.
6 all Big 12 freshmen.
6 all Big 12 freshmen. So it's like, these guys do play freshmen.
Yeah.
Right.
So then we're telling them, like, hey, our shortstop's gone. It's yours to lose. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
But, like, we're not going to go out and get anybody. It's the same thing we did with player A, with player B. So you're giving them this history, positive history to where, they're like, all right, sweet, yeah, I'll turn down some money to come to school, be a part of that.
Without any filter, since you're not specifically talking to somebody in somebody's living room, and you know how it is in the recruiting process, that you're being completely transparent, and you're looking at them, and you're saying, look, I know what I'm talking about, what I'm saying. I'm not just recruiting you. This is the way it's going to happen.
Right.
Now that you don't have to worry about, what are some things that you tell to that recruit, that stud, that can come to TCU, they want to come to TCU, but there's this whatever perception, or where you have the SEC and they have this perception of all the resources. What would you say to that specific? Why come to TCU if you're a top prospect?
Well, I think the main thing is I think a lot of times when kids, you talking about in terms of the draft or just in terms of a kid
just going to school?
Going to school. Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. In terms of what we've done, all the way back. I mean, before 2010, but even after that, you just look at it and look at the amount of kids that we've brought in that have developed and got to the professional ranks. I think, the SEC, the ACC has done a really good job. Those two leagues have done a good job in terms of really promoting the fact that it's almost like if you don't go to one of those two leagues, you're playing second fiddle, and you can't reach what you want to reach, and that's not the truth. When
you look at the stats,
when you look at the numbers, and he's as good as anybody on the Excel spreadsheet, and he'll do a ton of research and basically see, hey, this is where we rank in terms of if we weren't in our conference and we're in that conference, this is where we rank against that, and we're at near the top half of that conference in terms of all those things. And we do it in a place in DFW and Fort Worth that is an unbelievable place to go to school, because you can do anything 100%. That you want. You can go to the Rangers games, the Cowboys games, 20 minutes one way. If you want to go hunt and fish, you go 20 minutes the other way. TCU in and of itself, in terms of one of the top 90 universities of the 3,000 universities in our country, in terms of an elite private school degree, and a great academic environment. Our average class size is 25, so you kind of get what we tell them is that you get the best of both worlds. Usually when you go to a mid-sized school, you're not getting the facilities and the support to win a championship at the highest level, right? Because they're more focused on academics. Usually when you're at a big, huge state school, what you're going to lack is the academic environment in terms of average class size 25, one-on-one, in terms of your relationship with your professor.
Yeah, they know
you're
your
just
name.
not getting the quaintness of that at a big school. So you're kind of giving something up on that end.
Yeah. And even within athletics,
we're not giving anything
our
up.
Athletes know each other. They eat together.
And the family aspect of it, where they're around each other and they know each other and they're known. I think that's a big thing too for student athletes. Is I feel like in Fort Worth and at TCU, athletes are known, right? They're known around campus. They're known around town, and I just think that's the piece that I think when people understand that and come visit and see it, it's really hard to turn down.
I had a recruit. He was deciding between top recruit, #1 in the country, and he visited SEC school down the road, about 3 hours south, and us. And that's exactly why he picked TCU. Is that he walked around with a senior who was currently #1 in the nation in college, and he'd been there for 5 years. Walked the campus, normal, nobody. He walked the campus with a sophomore that had been here just one semester, came in January, and everybody on campus knew who he was. Everybody knew he was a tennis player. His name was Jack, and he's like, wow. He saw it at first hand, that difference. That here, obviously, it's a smaller environment. But if you were to ask me, I've been around here, and we modeled our program, at the TCU tennis program, to the baseball program. The way you get in the community, the way your culture with sort of that hard work ethic, but classy, good, respectful kids. Well-mannered kids, but absolute dogs when it comes to the competition. And if you were to ask me, I would say player development and family. Those are the two things that are not, and it's not, everybody says that.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you do your research, the pudding's in the bread.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Bread is in the pudding.
Maybe there's a
Proof
saying
is
in
in the
Spanish
pudding.
that we know better.
The proof is there.
What did he say?
The proof is there in the numbers, and in the family piece, and it's unbelievable. Your whole family is involved. There's not a time where I don't see Kristen all there. Your mom,
Linda,
Yeah,
at our
Linda.
matches.
Yeah.
Whenever baseball doesn't play,
Right.
she's at our match. She's everywhere.
Yeah.
Linda is supporting.
and awesome, and
Every
then
one of
Tornado
us.
Lane, right?
yeah.
Tornado
Oh,
Lane.
yeah.
How
Yeah.
old is Lane now?
Lane's 12.
I wanted
12.
to recruit her when she was like 8.
I know.
She
Sorry, John. She's the real GM.
oh, I know
Oh,
for
yeah.
She'll
sure.
ask
Could
me
totally
sometimes, Dad, why that lineup? Why'd you bring that guy in? I'm like, oh god. But
She's-
I think
she's
the
awesome.
family piece I think is huge.
It's huge.
Where when you go on these recruiting trips, everybody says that, everybody talks about culture, and I think if you have to always talk about it, you don't have it.
Right.
And I think for us, it's an everyday thing. John lives a mile from campus. I live a mile door to door from campus. Coach Lon, Coach Mo's a little further out. He's all of 15 minutes away. We have everybody lives and breathes baseball in our program. And I think when families and kids get on campus and we have, because it's around football, that's when you're recruiting for the most part. And we try to have them over to my house for a meal and hang out, and you're taking golf carts, and they just see what it's like in terms of everybody's all in.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a job. It's like literally, it's not a profession. This is a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is.
Where
It is a
where
lifestyle.
if you feel like if you think you can take a step out and separate your home life and your family away from this job, I think some people do it. We don't do it here. It's
Correct.
all in
Correct.
all the time. Lane,
Yeah.
rides her scooter to practice after school and
Tells
hangs
her
out.
what to do.
Right, exactly. And then
Runs the show.
bringing Howie, used to be Bud, to the field. The golden retriever.
Yes,
Tommy Lepore,
yes.
who's our Friday night guy, literally, I think that's his favorite thing about coming to the field every day is he knows he's going to see my golden retriever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think when you invest your everything into it, like you said, my mom lives right by the track and comes to every single game, goes on every road trip.
Yeah.
My family's fully invested in it. My wife, I think that
Talk
that
about
shows up.
Talk about an overachievement.
Hey,
I mean, you could win.
I was a recruiter, remember? I was a recruiting coordinator at one point.
You could win the NCAAs
Yeah,
10 years
Chris
in a
is
row,
amazing.
and your biggest
Good job,
achievement
good
would
job,
be
good
landing
job.
those one.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining at all, obviously.
Thank you.
But yeah, she's awesome.
You're awesome.
I thought you live a mile away. I see your car parked like across the street all the time.
Yeah, there's
Do
It's
you
close,
walk
yeah.
a mile and then come back? You
Golf
want a
cart
little
sometimes,
exercise?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
exercise.
Okay.
Trying to keep up with you.
This is so you're a catcher's coach, right? You were a catcher yourself. You've coached catchers.
Yes.
And in my opinion, I don't know a ton about baseball, but to me, it seems like the catcher's kind of the brains behind what's going on. You gotta know what's sort of the quarterback. You gotta know.
If
You got
you don't have a good
Feel
catcher,
like-
you don't have a good
yeah.
team.
He leads like the
and
setter in
and you're using
volleyball.
your
Right.
brain, right? You're using your brain.
You touch the ball every
Yeah.
single pitch.
Yeah.
So how does a guy that play that position, coach that position, end up with a general studies degree at
I didn't take a
Michigan?
foreign
What
language.
happened there? What happened?
You have to take a foreign language to have a
Español?
quote-unquote English. Didn't want to do it.
Muy fácil.
No, I took it-
Espanol is good for
I took
recruiting.
it in high school
Come
and I
on.
said that's enough for me. That was the most homework ever that I saw my teammates doing in college. I said no thanks.
So because as I know you probably had a ton of business classes, right? That was I saw that. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
bet I knew there
I
was
think
a story.
I maximized the courses that I took. Some guys had general studies, but they took like Dinosaur 101.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I was
Okay, you
maybe in
yeah.
accounting or something.
Did you
Yeah.
run into any tennis players there? Evan King or any of those
Evan
guys?
King, yeah, he was a buddy of ours.
Yeah.
Tennis and baseball I think we were on the same floor as freshmen, so we had a good little relationship with that group when we were there.
Nice.
Look
Long
at
time
David.
ago.
He likes to joke.
I love my jokes. I
Well-
get more pleasure out of them than anybody else.
I want to go back to the family aspect because I think it's so important for recruits to see it and fans and everything that your family is around, like here supporting you, your family too, like all the time. And that's like your support system as coaches. So if I see my head coach with a good support system, I'm like, oh my God, like his center, he, if he's struggling, if like stress hits, he has people around him. And I think like, even like, for example, us, probably our family is not here, but man, like TCU, Fort Worth is a big family. People are amazing. I love Fort Worth because it's a big community, people care for you, and you feel supported all the time. So I think that's one of the biggest selling points about Fort Worth too.
Yeah.
The family and community aspect of it.
Yeah, and what we did too to kind of piggyback off that is Chris and I take the family to kind of the Cape every year, which is the best summer league in the country. And you know, in the summer leagues, what you have is a host family, right? So they send all these players out to all these different summer leagues during the summer, and instead of putting them up in a hotel or some random spot, they put them with a host family. And so Chris and I were kind of on a walk one day, and we're like, why don't we do a host family for our kids that are local or that are here for the season? Because we have so many people in the Tanglewood, in the general vicinity right of campus, right? That's the cool thing about TCU is that it's literally in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah, it's
one of the best
beautiful
The
neighborhood.
best, right?
Not the best in Fort
And there's
Worth.
so many people that want to
families.
help out, right?
Yeah.
They might have kids or little kids, or they might not, doesn't matter. But we thought, why don't we get about 20 families and pair up, and then ask our guys, hey, this is the program that we're doing. It's called, Frog Family. And if you want to do it, great. If you don't, you don't have to. And so pretty much every single one of our guys wanted to be part of it. And what it is we have about 20 different families that their only job is, we told them, hey, just once a month, put an extra plate down at dinner and invite your student athlete, your baseball player over for dinner and just hang out. Just because a lot of times these kids, they miss the family aspect. They miss being around their brothers and sisters, or they miss being around the family dog or whatever. And so what we wanted to do is, it just gives them an ability, someone outside of the baseball program that supports TCU athletics and baseball. It just gives them an opportunity to just go sit down around a kitchen table, around a family, and have dinner once a month. Well, of course, what ends up happening is most of these families are having them over 2 or 3 times a month, and they're talking about everything.
That's awesome.
And all of a sudden, last year we had one of our players, they were hanging something on the wall and didn't have a screwdriver. And so what ends up happening, they call their host family. And so now those relationships are not just for the time that they're here. When they now leave, right, they're still asking for advice. Or maybe when they're done playing, they come back and they ask, how can I, what's my next step after baseball? And so that's been huge for us, just for these guys to be able to have someone to go to where, they'll just come over and have dinner and hang out, and now they're going to the Little League games of the host family, like
Right.
Noah Franco and Cade Udy are with the McCoys, and they're going to go watch their 2 sons go play, Little League over at ULL, and it's just, all of a sudden it's become this really big, awesome thing, and I think it's something
That's
that
really
we
cool. I
promote,
actually didn't know about that. I'm jealous.
You do something similar.
We have
though.
we have the same families that are very involved, and they we have, our numbers are so small.
Small, yeah.
We have 10 guys, so
Right.
you that happens without being so official in a way. But I know you're in the world of mental health, and there's a lot of, in baseball, there's so many, not just mental health, but mental performance and routines,
Rituals.
and talk
You
about it
guys
being
have, like,
superstitious.
superstitious. I was going to bring that up.
Superstition. We want to hear about all the
That's
superstitions.
a big word
But
for baseball, right?
What a healthy way for a college student athlete to be in that environment, even if it was just once a month.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, we have one of our kids is a poor old kid that ended up leaving TCU.
He's
that
still,
he came back into town. The first thing he did, he went to his frog family.
Yes.
And had dinner.
yes.
Like even to that extent.
Even for them to see, let's say they do have a little league 10-year-old, I bet it takes them back to, let's say they're going through a little tough time or whatever, takes them back to when they were 10 years old, and
Yeah.
why they played, how fun it was.
Perspective.
Even that perspective and going
Yeah.
backwards as to why did I play it to begin with.
Correct.
Yeah.
That alone might just get them out of a slump.
No doubt.
And
Well,
start-
and to just see people locally in the community where they're looking at these kids, they don't really care how good they're doing. They just want to be there to support them. So it kind of gives them some perspective on, hey, you have people in your corner,
Yeah.
regardless if you're doing great or you're not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just here to support.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's so needed because that's, we're talking about also social media and things like that. Like kids are just in their phones and stuff, and they lack of the personal,
Yeah.
the personal, how do you say, like contact.
Interaction,
mostly with older people, right? Or kids or family. So that's cool because it shows them to be mentors to the younger generations.
Yeah.
That's great.
Tell us about the mental performance. I see. You see all the rituals, whether the pictures. I'm sure you had your own little routine, right?
Was it more for prepping yourself, or was it more superstitious?
Well, it's interesting. Like, where's the line between superstition and routine?
Yeah.
You know, if you feel like you have to do something, and if you don't, you won't be able to get something done. That's a superstition. I think routine is basically just, we try to educate our guys in terms. Your routine is basically used when, a lot of times it's not when it's going really good, because you're just kind of in that green light, which is, we use signal lights, green light. What do you do when you get to a green light? You go.
You go. Yeah.
All right. I always find out a lot about people when I say when it turns yellow, what do you do, David? Do you slow down or you go? You speed up. That's what I would have thought you would have said. Right? But the yellow light is like, okay, things are starting to get away from me.
Yep.
All right. And then red light is like things are like in mentally you're just spinning, you're out of control. So we're always trying to try to get back up a light, get from yellow light, get to green light. And we use routines to be able to slow the game down. You need it when things aren't going well. And so we call them more routines because it's routine based, and a lot of it is based on breathing. You know, like we've been sitting here for 40 minutes talking, and not one of us have thought once about taking a breath, right? It's just what you do. But when you start thinking about, okay, I'm going to take a breath, you have to get present. And that's the biggest culprit in terms of when stuff starts getting out of control, is you're not present. You're either worrying about what just happened, or you're worrying about what's going to happen. And when you're in those two areas, your execution suffers. When you're at your best, you're in your present moment. So we use the mental game, the breath, the routine to try and get us as mentally present as possible, and trying to make it, whether it's in Omaha in June or a practice in January, can you make it the same? Kind of coach speak, because it will be different, but we're trying to get it to the point where your routine is so dialed that you're present regardless if it's January or it's June, and whether there's people in the stands or there's not. We use the mental game to really try to hone that skill, because I think once you get to this level, all the talent starts to equal out. What's going to be the separator? And we feel like working on the mental game, having a mental coach, and working on breathing, working on routines is going to allow you to reach to perform at your highest capability more often.
And it's also the area, it's hard to know if it's working or not, right? It's hard to measure. It's not that objective. It's somewhat subjective. So it's a part. You go to the gym, you know you're lifting more weight. You can look in the mirror, you can see the muscles building. It's hard to see the mental side of building, so a lot less people are willing to stick with it. And that's where if you want to gain on your competition, it's a mental side that not everybody's willing to do. Let me ask you this. Conference tournament, were you at a green light, yellow light, or red light when you got tossed out of the game? Which light were you
back
in?
in the archives here.
Well, usually it's about 2 ejections a year. You're talking about...
I think that was your first year.
That was my first year.
Yeah, with
my
the bag.
first year. I was in complete green lights, and I would say I was in green lights for most of the whole time. You know, because I was ejected for telling the umpire that I wanted to walk the conference player of the year, and he thought I was... I said like this, which is basically put that guy on, and the umpire thought I was like waving him like that, and so he ejected me.
For waving him?
Yeah, because he
I
thought I was going like one of these,
every game.
You know, so the great
David,
thing
you would have been ejected like
sensitive
every other match.
Well,
or every match.
The great thing is we have a safe word. Okay, so when I start going from green lights to yellow lights to red lights, like start really getting after an umpire.
Yeah.
Right? And John's next to me, pineapple. He's telling me, hey, shut up. Stop.
I need that word, man. I need that word. I was going to think of pineapple.
I give him a stare from the stand.
But my last ejection was actually his fault, because he actually started the whole thing by saying a comment to an umpire in Arizona. And I was like, "Ooh, that's a good comment." So I said it twice louder, and then I got ejected.
You doubled down.
But he started it. But no,
that was a long weekend.
Yeah, that's funny.
But pineapple was used after that. He got thrown out early in the whole argument or conversation, whatever you want to call it, and then he wanted to get his 2 cents in, so I let him, and then we didn't need him getting suspended for a couple games after, because he could get thrown out in every single game and still coach the next game.
Yeah, that was the problem that year.
If an assistant coach gets kicked out of a game, I serve a 1-game suspension, then a 2-game, a 3. Like, it keeps building unless he does something egregiously wrong, physical contact, using
out there too long,
using certain words towards an umpire. Like, you could get a 2-3 game suspension.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's always every year.
So,
have you ever been ejected as a coach?
No. Maybe this is the year.
Maybe.
I don't want to miss a game.
The cool thing is in
Well,
baseball,
there,
when you get ejected, you almost get celebrated. You know, in tennis,
It's like exciting.
Yeah.
People
tennis.
like it.
He went down underneath the. We had a locker room actually behind the dugout at Arizona, and it was old minor league complex, so it was decent setup. And he was down there on the iPad watching, and I'd go down
kick my shoes off.
My
heart rate and my blood pressure lowered because I was just back there watching it on TV like everybody else.
Yeah.
Awesome, nice shoes by the way.
Thank you. Yeah,
James Gripp. Stepped up.
Killer.
Yeah.
Got the initials and baseball on the side
So
there.
cool.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Those are awesome.
Both have their initials.
Yeah, very very cool.
I remember when I used to play indoor right, and I played for my national team, and my coach got ejected from the match, and I'm like. And it just fired us up so much.
Does that
It's
happen
like
often?
Transformational. Like I was just like you had like extra motivation to play better, and it was kind of
Yeah,
cool.
I don't think it
actually.
happens too much, right, in your world.
No, not as much as baseball. You guys never you should get ejected.
Yeah.
Like,
I know the line. If they were to move the line a little bit, I would get in trouble a lot more often.
I don't know how you.
But Sonny gets after
Yeah,
referees.
and you can read
Jamie does.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
Jamie-
you
Jamie
get
is like,
technicals
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel like you should. It's almost like soccer or something. Like you get like a yellow card.
We get cards.
Should.
We get
Yeah.
cards like yellow, red
Hey,
card.
settle down. This is my warning to you.
I'll get a warning.
Yeah.
As a
I've
coach,
gotten
you're
yellow
pushing
cards,
it.
no
You're
red
pushing
cards,
it.
though.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're probably pretty sarcastic with officials.
No,
No,
I'm pretty
he
direct.
like veins pop out and like
There's
eyes
some
go like
pictures.
that. Like he goes
I
like.
can really.
No, it
There's
is
a
pretty
few
intense.
buttons that like foot faults. When they don't call foot faults, that's my biggest pet
That's
peeve.
your biggest one.
Yeah.
Well, I think in
Yeah.
your sport, like that the guys are calling their lines and they
Yeah.
start
They're their
cheating.
own
That's
refs,
like
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
so
we
that he
can.
gets
There's a lot,
it.
and we can talk about. There's actually there might even be a time where you might even do it on purpose to get kicked out because you feel like your team needs a little excuse, like she said, to get fired up.
Yeah.
Look what I'm willing to do. What are you willing to do? So, well, I know we're coming towards the end here. I'll tell you where I see the family piece and the development is easy, right? You see these guys in the major leagues, right? You're watching the World Series and you have a Carpenter hitting against Arrieta. I mean, how much more do you want than that?
Yeah.
Cy Young and then the MVP of hitting. Where I see the success is the continuity of your staff. And you have someone like, how long has Meredith Montgomery been part of your...
She's the longest tenured, which she'd probably would hate me saying that, but I think she's probably 16 or 17.
Yeah,
years.
and I don't believe
Maybe more
you're
than
able
that.
to keep, I consider her a stud, and a stud like that for 16, 17, unless you have the family, the culture, the respectful, what I would say the real life sort of things. It's not just a place where you go work. As you said, you live it. And you've been here since 2012.
Yeah,
You've been
because-
here 8 years now. So I think that recruits and families need to pay attention to that. I think that tells if they're willing to stay and they want to stay here, well, there must be something really good about it.
Absolutely.
It's an easy sell with specifically my role, talking about the family piece and everything we've talked about on the podcast and transformational versus transactional. If people truly believe in the transformational piece, there's no better place than TCU and as in general as a whole, but specifically, our program, your program, but they need to fully believe in it and commit to it versus the transactional.
Which is 18 to 22 years old, right?
Right.
Isn't that the most important part
Yeah.
of that stage in your
Impact
life?
you the rest of your life.
Is the
Yeah.
transformation from being a little boy to a man, or a little girl to a woman.
And the interesting thing too is when we'll get a lot of an email or maybe even a letter or a family saying this. A lot of times, this is what's happened to us in the last couple of years. Is the parents are the one that say if this was my decision, it's a no-brainer, and then the kid might go somewhere else, and that's the part where it's like maybe sometimes the mom and dad maybe see that a little bit more than maybe the kid gets caught up in the football atmosphere, or they get caught up in the stadium or whatever it may be. Maybe things that it's almost like a new car. That new car smell will wear off. Yeah. What car do you want to be in? What do you want to drive? And we feel like
Reliable,
here,
consistent.
yeah, it's like we wish that the parent would actually be like, you know what, we're gonna make this decision. We'd get a lot more kids, I think, if it was the mom and dad making the decision.
100%. I had a recruit. I mean, we can all tell stories, but I had a recruit go to another school because he just thought the football locker room was awesome.
Yeah,
he just kept talking about the men's locker room. I said, I'm not so
that
sure you want to be there.
That's not the life you're going to be living, pal.
Like, anyway, so awesome, guys. Any final comments?
No, I think I've always been jealous about your staff retreat. We need to get invited, right? Just kidding.
Yeah, well, Barry Davis, a big time booster of ours. We actually get to go use his lake house out in Lake Cypress Springs out in East Texas, and it's an awesome retreat. I think we bring 25.
That's awesome.
Family. The first 2 days are kind of from 9 till 1 o'clock. It's kind of let's talk some business about the upcoming season. We do it in August. And then that's usually Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, all the families and kids come out. And that's Friday, Saturday. And then we come back for our first team meeting on Sunday. But usually we try to get it Monday through Saturday because John hasn't been home the whole summer, and so John goes out there usually by himself, and
not anymore.
Little
and hangs out.
Not anymore.
But no, but it's a phenomenal place.
That's awesome.
Does Lane show up on Wednesday and run those meetings?
Pretty
or does
much.
she show up on Friday? When
She
the
shows up
family-
on Wednesday.
Yeah, I can see her running.
Yeah,
those
she
meetings.
keeps us on point.
Yeah,
that's
I
cool.
love,
sure.
I love
That's
Lane.
cool.
She's
Can
awesome.
we ask you a question? How's your golf game?
Non-existent. Plus, I'm not a big fan of the tight lies right now with
Tight lies.
with no grass.
The South Course originally.
But-
That's
yeah.
usually because our off days are Mondays.
Yes.
And just so everybody knows, that's usually when we're working Tuesday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And Monday is our one day where the guys have off, and so we have usually off in the afternoon. But with Ridgely South being under construction,
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
I
we'll
do
be able
miss
to do
it,
this
and
year.
it's just when you
Yeah.
get out of the habit, and then I assume not hitting the ball very well, but too many hernia surgery, family, kids. You know how it is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You kind of spread everywhere.
life is happening.
Life's happening.
I think our clubs were put away for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Running in the garage.
Yeah, it's tough, but we'll get back on it.
Yeah.
You only get better as you get older in golf.
That's right.
So it's
Like yeah,
she tells me I gotta get in better shape.
we all do.
I never say stuff like that.
Those I
You
never.
probably feel you need to get in better shape, but
You just
it's
agree.
I'm not.
You're
Yeah,
supposed to
I'm just saying
disagree.
yeah.
I agree. You do. Well, awesome, guys. Great having you.
Yeah,
Good
it was
luck
great.
this season.
Thank you so much.
Good luck
It's
this
awesome.
season.
It
We
was
could
fun.
do a whole another podcast on what the expectations, blah blah blah, and all that. But the truth is, you probably just
I like
don't
best
know.
hope,
Don't
except
know yet,
like
so
no expectations.
We'll let you know in April.
I know you're seventh in the preseason rankings. I saw that yesterday. One of them. You probably have a few. Correct?
Yeah, there's
is that right?
Yeah, we're between 7 and 11.
There's like
Okay.
10 different
Okay.
Okay.
rankings out there. There's so many different ones. So.
Well,
Either way,
Yeah.
you show up anywhere in that picture. That's a great start.
great.
and
one week at a time,
that-
guys.
We're excited
week
to
at a
follow
time.
you.
One
So-
game at a time. Let's go.
Well, with
Yeah.
that being said,
Yeah.
from the courts.
To the sand. This is D1 Coach's Pot. Thanks for watching us. See you in the next set. Please remember to subscribe, follow, and share. And go Frogs.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.